Yes.
And we're live.
All right, we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode 515. And today is, as I check my watch in the car here, it is the 25th of September, 2024. And no, I'm not driving, but on my way on the road and happy to make it here. So I wanted to say hi to the guys real quick. We got a couple of quick announcements. And then, of course, we're going to jump into answering your local SEO questions. So, Chris, going to start with you. How you doing, man?
Doing good, super busy as usual. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Lots of work, busy, busy.
All right. Uh, Bradley, how about you, man?
Uh-oh, your bandwidth is breaking up, Adam. Or it might be
Sorry
mine.
about that.
Yeah, he's breaking up pretty bad, but I don't know if it's me because I'm on a satellite
Nah,
connection
it's
and there's a
Adam. You're good.
okay, I was gonna say the we got a hell of a storm cloud above us. It's been raining like crazy all day here, so my internet's been in and out. But that said, well, I think what Adam was going to say was he was introducing me, and so yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good. Things are good. Are you back now, Adam?
Yeah, I think I was switching networks. We're like going through some I wouldn't call them canyons, but some gorges here in Western Massachusetts. So
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, I just wanted to ask how you're doing, Bradley. And I'm gonna, while I've got decent bandwidth here, one thing I wanted to discuss because we talked about it earlier, we're going to be doing another 3-day DHA workshop, and so we're looking to do that in October. So if you can tell people a little bit more about that, I know there's people who weren't around in the summer when you did the last one.
Yeah, right. And so thank you, Adam. Yeah, so the DHA 3-day workshop is the intro to phase one, which is building the prospecting and marketing machine, the directory, that kind of stuff. But it's really the cold email side of things because that's what we use for initial outreach is cold email. And it works. I've been doing it for 4 years now. It's a phenomenal way to grow an agency. The DHA 3-day workshop is about first selecting an industry that you want to work with, specifically choosing one industry, not 10, one. Okay. Doing the proper amount of research to validate or verify that it is a correct or a good industry to work in. That it's either steady in demand or increasing in demand over time, not declining in demand, those types of things. So there's SOPs that go along with this 3-day workshop that help you to go through all of this stuff. The 3-day workshop's an hour each day for 3 days. And that's where I go in and I explain the SOPs that I'm going to present to you guys or whoever the members are of that 3-day workshop. I provide SOPs at the end of the workshop session, which is an hour each day for 3 days, where basically I'm introducing the concepts, explaining what it is, answering questions about it, et cetera. Then I deliver the SOPs. And then it's up to you to work through the SOPs. Then the next day we go in, I'll answer any questions that you guys have, that kind of stuff. But it's essentially giving you the full training as standard operating procedures. So it's very, very thorough. It's literally step by step on how to select an industry and then set up, create a brand that you're going to be using for marketing to that industry. And then for setting up the infrastructure for the cold emailing app, warming up the domains properly, the messaging sequencing that you use for the cold outreach, how to identify low competition areas to then target for your prospecting initially so that when you start to generate leads for your agency, you're generating leads from low competition areas that is going to make it easier for you to produce results in. Why is it that we as SEOs always go target the hard stuff? Why? Why do we do that? It doesn't make any sense. Go after the easy stuff first, right? So that you can generate revenue with a little bit, with less work. That then you can, if you want to go target harder stuff at a later time, fine. But do that after you've got your kind of monthly recurring revenue needs met, which is what you can do by targeting low competition areas. And so the whole part of the DHA 3-day workshop is literally to help you get set up and start with the cold emailing, selecting an industry, doing proper competition and location research so that you're only targeting the areas that you have the greatest chance of success in. And then that's going to help you to kind of jumpstart if you decide at a later time to join the full coaching program. You're going to have a big portion of that done already, which is going to give you a significant jumpstart or head start over everybody else in the group. And so it's very inexpensive. We're not charging very much for the 3-day workshop, and it's the training that you get included is very with the SOPs and everything is very, very thorough. Like literally, guys, there's nothing that is left out of the SOPs. Like we're in the second phase or the second group of phase one right now. And so the first group helped identify gaps or deficiencies within the SOPs, things that weren't very clear. And so I added a ton of detail from the first group. And now we're in the second group. And the second group very rarely finds anything that needs clarity added. So clarification added to the SOP. They have found some things, but which is great. And I appreciate that, because what I'm saying is by having another group now going through the full suite of SOPs, we are still identifying some things that need clarification or updating. And so this next 3-day workshop is going to have even more thoroughly developed SOPs than the first 3-day workshop. And so the point is, it's very, very thorough, guys. It's the kind of training that I provide through SOPs is literally step by step. It's makes it to where it's paint by numbers. You just follow the damn process, and you will have everything built and running properly by the end of the when you complete the SOPs. So all of that is to say, the 3-day workshop is for those of you that aren't quite ready to jump into the full coaching program, but know that you have a need to generate leads for your agency or for your marketing services. This is a fantastic way. Like I said, for 4 years, I've been using cold email now to generate leads for my agencies, the different local SEO businesses that I run. And it works. That's how I grow all of my agencies, is through cold email. So I would encourage you to check it out. It's very inexpensive, very thorough, and it'll help give you a leg up if you decide to join the full program at a later time.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think I'm going to hop off before I'll keep this short so my laggy connection doesn't come back. I keep cutting in and out, but we'll get the information out to everybody. We'll start sending out some emails about that in the coming weeks. So stay tuned. And if you're not subscribed yet, head over to semanticmastery.com, hop on the email list. We send out a ton of great content every week, and you'll get the notifications about that and be able to sign up. So other than that, guys, I got nothing else. Like I said, I'm going to hop off so I don't drive everyone crazy, but have a good Hump Day Hangout.
that was the cue. Right on time. He got cut off. All right, right on. All right, I'm going to grab the screen, guys, and we'll just jump right into questions and stuff. Chris, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, let's get started.
All right, great. We've got a bunch of questions. Some are YouTube questions, like from YouTube comments, that those are difficult to answer. So, because we don't know the context unless you watch the video. So I'll kind of scan through those as we go. And if I don't think it's going to be easy to answer without providing context, then I'll just skip it, just to be clear. So we got a bunch of questions still coming from Huzaifa. We did the kind of audit review of his project last week, at least partial audit review. So still got some questions that are here from last week that we didn't get to. I'm going to try to roll through some of those, guys, since some of these YouTube comments may be skipped anyways. Then we've got another land flipping question again from Roy. So I'll save that for the end, Roy, just like I did last time. That way everybody else that's not interested in that can go do other more productive things while I answer your question. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. Let's jump into this, guys. The first question is how to decide what the headings or H2s should be on a service page and how many they should be. Is it okay to use on-page tools for creating thoroughly optimized service page? Yeah, you can. Look, I don't use on-page optimization tools for tuning content for local SEO. I just don't do it anymore. Not for my own projects, because I understand the industry well. And I already know what works and what doesn't work. And I found that for local SEO, you can convey to Google exactly what the page is about through the main optimization elements of the page, which is titles, headings, and subheadings. That's it. You don't need content. You don't need much content. If you want filler content to make it, make sense to a visitor, a human visitor, by all means, put that content there. But doing those types of on-page optimization tools where you go try to get your score to 100% because the tool tells you that that's what you need and all that kind of stuff, I found in local SEO, it's absolutely unnecessary, because those are like negative feedback loops that end up causing you to over-optimize the pages and put way more content and filler and fluff and keyword density and all this other stuff that I found isn't really necessary, because you can convey to Google through the main optimization elements, titles, headings, and subheadings. What are the titles? SEO title and page or post title. There's two titles, right? The SEO title or meta title, and the page or post title, that's the H1. Then you have headings, which are H2s, and then subheadings, H3s, 4s, 5s, etc. And through those elements alone, you can convey to Google exactly what the page is about. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have content on the pages other than titles, headings, and subheadings. I'm just stating that you can convey to Google what the page is about through that. And so I don't use on-page optimization tools for content tuning and development for the industry that I work in, because I already have figured out the proper page structure, and that's all that is needed, if that's clear. But if you're in an industry that you're not sure about or whatever, then those tools can be helpful, right? They can help you to develop an outline. I prefer basically developing pages like to be basically an outline now, because now let me clarify things. On the service pages, I like to thoroughly optimize those with thorough descriptions of the services and the sub-services that are associated with that service. Okay, I think the service pages should be very well, provide a thorough description of that service, right? But the location pages, which is typically what we're trying to rank, those don't need to have a lot of content, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't put content on them. I'm just saying they don't need a lot. And so I don't use the SEO content tuning tools and things like that for those types of pages, because I don't think it's necessary. I found in my own testing, we don't need that. We don't need to do that. We end up wasting a ton of time on that and trying to get that score to something that makes us feel good. When in all reality, that's, like I said, it's kind of a negative feedback loop in that it basically forces you to over optimize the pages based upon the top ranked competitors, et cetera. And so I found it's not really necessary to do it. But if you have a tool that you use, that you like to use, that will help you to develop outlines and things like that, by all means, use it. How do I determine the H2s, the proper headings and all that? Again, I've talked about this many, many times on Hump Day Hangouts, guys. I go study Wikipedia, the entities or topics related to the industry that I'm working in. And then I start looking at the page structure of those entities. Look at the headings and subheadings on those Wikipedia pages that are of the entities that are relevant to your industry. And you start to get and look at the see also, right? So when looking at see also shows you tangential topics or entities, right? Things that are closely related to that particular entity. I showed this before, one of our mastermind members showed this to me, which I thought was phenomenal. His name is Nolan. He's in the UK. He showed how you can go to Wikipedia and click on there's a in the kind of menu area, I guess, above right where the entity term is, the title is. If you look over to the far right, there will be a thing that says what links here, a drop down. Let me just demonstrate real quick. I'll show you what I mean. So if I look at, like, I don't know, tree care as an example. Right here. Right here, this tools drop down. If you click on that and click on what links here, and then you click on hide transclusions and hide links and click go, it gives you the entities that are related or synonymous or variants of the term, the actual entity term. So tree care is the entity term, and you can see tree service, tree removal, tree care industry. All three of those are kind of terms that are related or variants of the entity term. And so again, I look at these different things like tree care, like the entity itself. I look at the headings and subheadings, the bolded terms, things like that, so that I can try to identify. And like I said, the see also, you see these down here, these are similar or related type of entities. And then from that, I just start trying to plan out what is logical based upon how these topics are covered within Wikipedia. How can I structure my pages to be similar to that? So that's where I start, and then sometimes it's going to take some trial and error, guys. That's why I keep preaching to you guys to do this with one industry, not 10, because it's very difficult to do this type of analysis and research and et cetera, testing across multiple industries. It's time consuming. There's no question. But I've been doing this for about 3 years now in the tree service industry. I've been working with tree service contractors for over 10. But for the last 3 years, I've been really testing and playing around with what I call topic and category optimization. And this is how I do it. Exactly what I'm describing to you guys right now, which is just studying Wikipedia, the entities related to the industry, looking at the headings and subheadings of those pages, and then start trying to figure out, based upon what your research reveals to you, what you can glean from that, is what seems logical, what seems most appropriate, the way that, according to Wikipedia, we assume that Google understands these topics, right? And then just start playing with it. Start putting out test sites, as we talked about before. Find low competition areas, put up some test sites, test different configurations, right? Try to change single variables on each subsequent test project, test site, test domain, whatever you want to call it, and see if you can figure out what is the best performing configurations. I'm still testing in the tree service industry. Right now I've found a control that has not been beat now for several months. I've made some slight changes, but I'm still finding that the current control that I have it remains the best performer. And so, like I said, eventually when I find something that will improve performance consistently, then I will change my control to include that. But it's a bit of a trial and error, guys. That's what SEO is, right? You can follow best practices, etc., but you can always find ways to improve things if you do enough testing. And so that's what like I said, guys, there are plenty of tools out there that can help you that are very advanced tools now with AI and everything that can help you to develop that outline very, very quickly for proper page structure. What I don't recommend though, again, is, and it's up to you, play with it if you don't believe me, but if you go spend a bunch of time tuning content and fleshing out a page, especially a location page, not necessarily a service page, but a location page, if you try fleshing it out the way that the on-page optimization tools are going to tell you to optimize, and go test that against then another page that is really just basically the outline, titles, headings, and subheadings, and see. And similarly, and by the way, you could do this in the same area, the same locations, or so with a test site. In other words, pick up a domain, build it one way where you've got the outline. You're going to use the same page structure for both test sites. Do two test sites. One that you've got, they're both using the same page structure, the outline of the page. But one you have tuned and optimized with all the content that the on-page optimization tools are going to tell you that you should have. And then the other one, keep it bare minimum, titles, headings, and subheadings. Maybe a couple of sentences in between headings or something, and that's it. And put them both into an indexer and Search Console and a rank tracker and see what happens. And you'll see that according to my testing in the tree service industry, the content on the location pages doesn't matter much. It's the headings, titles, headings, and subheadings that does. And so you'll find it, I'm hoping, I could be wrong. Maybe it varies by industry. I don't know. I do most of this testing in the tree service industry. And in the tree service industry, it doesn't matter. So what I'm saying is you might find that you'll be able to save yourself a lot of time from spending, wasting time on content tuning and all that stuff when it's unnecessary. Again, I don't know. For each industry, it may be different, guys. There's no way for me to know that because I do all of my testing in the SEO, or excuse me, the tree service industry. But it's logical. It seems pretty seems logical to me that if it works in local SEO for the tree service industry, it should work for other industries as well. So hopefully that's clear. Next question then is thoughts on using cheap TLDs like .site, .online, or .xyz for local SEO testing. You can, I suppose. I don't like to do that. I mean, you can. Let me rephrase that. You can do that. I use top level, or excuse me, they call vanity extensions all the time, like felling.pro. I've used .care for tree.care type. And I know people, well, .care is supposed to be for health providers or something like whatever. I don't care. If I've tested different types of domain extensions and not had any problem ranking them. I've not tried anything with .xyz in a long, long time, but .site, .online, things like that. Like I said, I use felling.pro as my current kind of LLG domain that I'm using, and that works just fine. I've used .care for a number of tree service projects where it was tree.care. So whatever the company name is, tree.care. And I've had no problems ranking those before. So yeah, you can, again, test with different domain extensions and see. Typically when I'm doing what the testing that I've talked about that Terry Kyle introduced me to many, many years ago, where he called when he was describing what he calls the random ranking factor. And he talks about testing on multiple domains before ever starting a project. And once you figure out what domain is performing the best, just to be clear, because I can't imagine that all of you know what the hell I'm talking about. Terry Kyle is kind of a legend in the SEO industry for those of you that have been around in the SEO business for at least a decade or so, or actually probably longer than that, 15 years or so. That dates me a bit, but Terry Kyle was mainly did like affiliate type SEO stuff, but he was real. We had one of the bigger names in SEO many years ago, around 2010 to 12 time frame, somewhere around there. And so he was on a forum, and by the way, he's the guy that owns and operates WPX hosting, Cloud Boss, Blue Chip Backlinks, which is a domain crawler, all kinds of stuff. So anyways, I highly respect the dude. He had a forum where he was real active on back then. And he was talking about, I was introducing the concept of what he calls the random ranking factor. And he said that Google just sometimes doesn't like certain domains. And we don't know why. Just some domains just will never perform well, no matter what you do. Even if they were brand new, never registered before domains. Sometimes Google, it's just randomly just dislikes domains. And maybe there's some scientific reason for it. Maybe it's just an algorithmic anomaly. I don't know. But the point is that he was talking about before starting any project, he would go out and purchase like 5 domains, the same domain with different extensions. But he was at the time, I believe he was talking about using TLDs, so .coms, .nets, .orgs, .us, top level country domains, etc. And then he would go put just a generic type of site onto, at the time it was WordPress, but install WordPress on each of those domains that is optimized for some gibberish type of term. In other words, you end up duplicating the exact same optimization onto all 5 sites. And we're not talking about building full-on sites here, guys, that are, have content and images and, tuned copy and all that kind of stuff. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about literally just buying 5 domains, slapping up a generic WordPress site that is optimized for some random made up search query or keyword, and then optimizing all 5 domains with the exact same, targeting the exact same search query or keyword, or something that could be made up, and just plugging all of them into Search Console and an indexer and a rank tracker, and seeing where they end up after let them sit for 3 to 4 weeks once they're indexed, and see which one is performing the best in search. That doesn't mean it has to be ranking. It doesn't matter. Let's say that the best performing one is in position 44. We're just making this up. And all the other ones are lower. All the other domains for the same search query are ranking lower than position 44. Well, now you know which domain is likely to perform the best when you build the project on it. It's not about ranking the domain for the test. It's about identifying which domain ranks the highest out of all of them, and then building your project onto that domain. And now that was 10 years ago, at least, if not 12 years ago, that I was introduced into that concept. And so I don't know if that's still valid or not. It seems relevant to me. It seems like it would still be valid. I haven't done any specific testing on that in many, many years, though. But so can you do it on these types of domains? Yeah, probably. I don't see why you couldn't. As far as testing different configurations, then yeah, those would be fine. Like buying lesser expensive domains just to see, like, if I make a change to this one variable of a page, does it improve performance or make, cause a performance drop? And I don't see why testing with those wouldn't be possible, because all you're looking for is, does it create positive or negative movement? It's not about actually ranking the site. Do you see what I'm saying? When I'm talking about doing all these testing, guys, it's not about ranking the site. It's about determining what produces a performance improvement or hurts performance. So it's either a positive or a negative. Once you determine that, then you try to repeat that to see, does it consistently, or at least more often than not, produce the same or similar result? Because if so, now you know that you found something that is, if it's a positive result, that you might want to incorporate into all of your builds, right? So does it negatively impact SEO? Not that I'm aware of. But again, like I said, I haven't done any like domain specific testing in a long, long time. So that would need testing too. Should we create supporting location pages for cities that aren't close to our primary location, given that we're not a service area business? I mean, you could, but that's, unless if it's a storefront business that people typically will drive long distances to get to, then yeah, it makes sense. But if it's one of those types of businesses where it's very unlikely for a potential customer to go from one end of the city to another end of the city for this service, because there's likely a lot of service providers or stores or whatever that provide the same product or service that are much closer to them, then I don't know that that's a good idea. I mean, you could do it, but would you be wasting effort? Probably. I mean, again, guys, it's going to vary depending on the industry, depending on what the products or services are, depending on what kind of people are typically used to traveling for and all that kind of stuff. Just think about it, guys. What I talk about when I teach about what I call LLG sites, local lead gen sites, those are set up for service area type businesses. And think about why. I think there's another question here about, can we also do these type of site structure and, method for like dentists and attorneys and things like that, storefront businesses? Sure, you can, especially if you're targeting the immediately adjacent areas or neighborhoods within the area or something like that as supporting location pages. So, like, in other words, if it's a storefront business, you're typically going to be optimizing for the city that the GVP is located in, right? And yeah, maybe you're trying to expand the maps coverage area, so maybe you target the immediately adjacent areas as well as supporting location pages. But when it comes to a storefront business, talking about now like what service area businesses typically do, which is going to be targeting, all the cities within a county, for example, cities, towns, incorporated communities, unincorporated communities, census designated places, all those types of things that you can find usually in the county Wikipedia page, right? Service area businesses typically are going to want to optimize for all of those locations because they service that large area. But a storefront business, I don't know that it makes sense to do that. I mean, again, it depends certainly on the business. What is normal for that type of a business? But if it's a dentist office, for example, or a dentist office, typically it's only going to be people that are in that area and the immediately adjacent areas that it would really be relevant to. I mean, typically. So you can still use that LLG site template structure, whatever you want to call it, for storefront businesses. You can be modified to be appropriate for that particular business. I was just doing an audit for 2 audits, in fact, for one of my mastermind members who also standard operating procedure uses our as our semantic link services for link building for his clients. And before his standard operating procedures before he ever submits a project to semantic links for link building is that he gets a full SEO audit. He does this for every single project. And so I just did 2 audits today for projects that are in one particular city. And they're storefront businesses. They're health related type businesses. And so in that audit, when I was providing the page structure recommendations, which is where I provide page structure, site structure, and internal linking recommendations, I was talking about for that, because it's a storefront business, he might not need supporting location pages. But if he did want to do supporting location pages, there are neighborhoods within that city that are listed within the Wikipedia page. So that's how I would add supporting location pages to a storefront business that is only targeting one city. And that is by trying to put supporting location pages that are optimized for neighborhoods within that. Look, I'll just show you which city it was. I'm not going to talk about the industry, but it was this one because I'll show you exactly where I got that data. Henderson, Nevada, Wikipedia. Okay, I did 2 audits today for this client of mine, and both of them were for Henderson storefront businesses that are both health related type of industries. And so right here under the geography heading, you can see this section right here. Not all the Wikipedia pages have that. Some of them do though. But it says right here, residential neighborhoods in Henderson. So this is in Henderson, Nevada, which is a suburb of Las Vegas. And so this is its own city, right? If we go back up to the top, we can see that Henderson has a population, 320,000. So it's no small city. It's a big damn city that's outside of Las Vegas. And so what I'm saying is he might not need to have supporting location pages or neighborhood pages on the site. But if needed, there's your opportunities right there, because these are all, like, again, this one here is one that I referenced in the audit because Anthem, Henderson is a master planned community in Henderson, Nevada. So this is a neighborhood or a community, either one, you could call it either one. But this could be referenced as a supporting location page because it supports the Henderson location. It's an area within Henderson. It's a community neighborhood within Henderson. So, that's a storefront business that could have supporting location pages for neighborhoods within that same city that it's targeting. But would it make sense then for them to target, like if we just go look at maps. So if I go to Henderson, Nevada, we look at maps. Would it make sense then to maybe build let's see if we can find another kind of subsection of this. Maybe if we just look at Las Vegas instead. Right. Okay, so we see like Henderson is here, and then Spring Valley's over here. Paradise is in between those. You see that? So would it make sense for a Henderson business that is a storefront business, not a service area business, to then have a location page in Spring Valley? I don't think so. I mean, again, guys, you're going to have to think about it logically. Does that make sense? You're not going to push the GBP into Spring Valley, just to be clear. It's not going to happen. You might be able to push the GBP for keyword plus Henderson, because then somebody in Spring Valley, if they're searching for that specific product or service keyword and they add the Henderson multiplier and modifier, and the GBP is physically located in Henderson, the searcher is asking Google, return businesses that are located in Henderson. But for somebody searching for the keyword plus near me, or the keyword Spring Valley with the Spring Valley modifier, that GBP is never going to rank there, period, full stop. No matter how many links you send to it, no matter what you do to it, if you search for the keyword plus near me, or the keyword plus Spring Valley, then the Henderson local business is not going to show up at the top of map search. Full stop. Now, if somebody searches for keyword plus Henderson and they're in the Spring Valley area, then of course Google could return that data, because that's what the search query was asking for. Does that make sense? And so for a storefront business, I don't think it makes any sense to optimize for cities that are, more than one city removed or further away. Like, in other words, not immediately adjacent areas. Of course, there can always be outliers or exceptions to that. But for most typical local businesses that are especially storefront businesses, I don't see why you would do that. To me, it would be a waste of effort. You could rank organically, but you're not going to rank the map there, is my point. Does that make sense? Or the GBP. You're not going to rank in maps with the GBP in Spring Valley in this particular example. So I don't know if that answered the question, but hopefully that's clear. I'm considering targeting high search volume on high population cities for a storefront business. For example, using a structure like state.domain city to target various high volume and population cities within the state. Would this work? Again, why though? Like, what would be the purpose of that? And so without more context, I'm not even going to spend any time answering that, because it doesn't seem logical to me. Now, again, maybe I'm just not understanding the intent of wanting to do that. But that's also like somebody says, right, here we go. This is the next question that I saw that I was referring to a moment ago. Can LLGs work for niches of dentists and law, considering these are more sensitive or delicate types of businesses? And would they have a lower likelihood of success with LLGs? So that question isn't quite the question that I thought it was when I read it the first time. But the point is, with storefront businesses, can you use the LLG concept? Yeah, you can. But here's the problem. When I talk about LLG, guys, that's local lead gen. But when building lead gen assets, guys, think about it. Lead gen assets are more suited for service area businesses. Because if you are publishing a site that you don't actually have a physical location for, right? You're claiming it's a local business, which is what a local lead generation site does, right? You're claiming that you're a local business, but you don't have necessarily a physical location for that business. So in a storefront type of a business, like a dentist office or like a law firm, they are going to have an address, because the clients or customers come to the business location to purchase products or services. It's not the same as a service area business, where the business goes out into the field, into the customer's location for the products and services. So think about what type of an industry you're in. Is it an industry that local lead generation assets, where you're claiming that you're a local business, but you don't actually have a physical business address? Does it make sense to build those? And think about that, guys. If a consumer does a search for a personal injury attorney near me, right? And or a personal injury attorney, let's just say, plus a city modifier, Henderson, Nevada, as an example, because we're just looking at that. And you have a organic only asset that ranks for personal injury attorney, Henderson, Nevada, and they land on that, but you don't have a physical location. Where are they going to go? Like, it makes sense to do that with a tree service contractor, or an HVAC, or a plumber, or a fence contractor, or pest control, or maybe a concierge doctor, right? A doctor that comes to your location to perform medical services or whatever, checkups and stuff like that. Any type of service area business, it makes sense for somebody to land on a page and then request contact information, or request to be contacted or whatever. But to land on a storefront business type of a local lead generation site that doesn't have an address, a lot of the times they're going to look for like, how do I get to this business? Well, what are you going to put there? Like, where are they going to go? There's no directions because there's nowhere to go. Like, they can't ask for driving directions to a non-existent physical location. So I'm not saying you can't do it. It just creates some challenges when you're creating lead generation assets that don't have a physical location for a storefront business. It's not logical. It doesn't seem appropriate. Like, where if somebody's expecting to have a local business, a location that they can go to purchase products or services, and they land on a website that has no location information, that would be a bit off-putting for me. Like, I would be suspect of that particular business. That's why I think lead generation is much better off. It's much better suited, I should say, for service area type businesses, because that's logical. Most of the time people are looking for like requesting a callback or trying to contact the company to request to a schedule appointment to have them come to the business, come to their location, the customer or consumer's location, to provide a quote or service or products or whatever. So it's just, again, think about it. What is the point of it? If you can make it work to where it's not you know, suspicious, then by all means do it. I'm just stating, I'm not saying you can't do local lead generation assets or have a lead gen business for storefront businesses. It's just more challenging. Hopefully that's clear. Does it matter if it's sensitive or delicate types of businesses? Well, it makes it harder sometimes, like dealing with certain financial industries. You have to have, there's all kinds of regulations about what kind of claims can be made within the copy. You have to have licenses and certifications or whatever, and all that kind of stuff published on the sites. And all there are challenges with some industries that I would rather avoid, just to be clear. Like, again, why create more work for yourself than necessary? If you can find another industry that does not require you to, like, to have to follow particularly tough regulations and things like that, then why not target other industries? Guys, there are so many industries out there that would fit into a lead generation model. I don't know why you would go after something that is intentionally difficult, unless it's because you have a way to overcome some of those difficulties that most other people's wouldn't. And then that would give you a competitive edge, a competitive advantage, if that's clear. But for a lot of you guys, a lot of people are going to run into just normal SEO challenges, and they're going to quit, or they're going to change niches because they're going to say, oh, it's the niche's fault. No, it's just normal SEO challenges that you have to overcome. But now you layer on regulation challenges and things like that, HIPAA stuff, HIPAA compliance stuff, financial compliance stuff, legal requirement stuff. Like, that just makes it more challenging, more work, etc. For those of you that can overcome those obstacles, that gives you a competitive advantage that often pushes most other competitors out of that space. So that might be a reason to do it. Personally, I don't want to deal with those types of industries. I love the tree service industry. It's very simple. There's not a lot of regulations. There's not a lot of compliance stuff that we have to deal with. The tree service contractors typically don't give a damn what their websites look like. I love that because I'm not a design guy, right? So again, choose your industries. Pick an industry that's easier to work in, guys. Don't make it hard on yourself. Can it work for that? Maybe. Or yes, it can. Absolutely. Again, bit more challenging because they're storefront businesses, right? And some of them have regulations that you need to be aware of, right? Moving on. SEO title H1 paragraph. Are those the three elements we need to test in different variations when doing local SEO testing? No, you need to test everything. Like I said, I've been teaching for months and months and months now, even in a public setting, about how to structure sites better for local search, because that's all I do. And especially for service area businesses. And so what I talk about is, it's going to require testing in whatever industry you're in. I can give you the framework. If you order an audit from me, I can do the research for topic and category optimization and how to and provide page structure recommendations based upon my research. But since I'm not in your industry, I can't do the testing for you, nor would I. Okay. I can give you the framework based upon the industries that I have tested this in, and knowing that the concept works. But determining the exact configuration requires trial and error. So that's why I said, like, I can provide you with the topic and category research, which is the entity research, and provide you with those details. I can provide you with page structure recommendations based upon the entities that I've uncovered through my research. But determining the specific configuration of the H1, or excuse me, SEO title H1 and the variations of the entities and how you can create a new topic from two separate entities, things like that, that requires testing, guys. And there's no way that I could do that for you. So as far as which elements, it's all of them, right? I always try to optimize for topics and categories in the SEO title and the H1. Remember, category is literally Google Business Categories. Topics are the entities or topics within Wikipedia. So topic optimization is for organic performance or optimizing for organic search. Category optimization is optimizing for maps search. So I always start with categories and then use categories to determine what the topics are or Wikipedia entities that are are responsible for those categories. And then from there, I just start playing around with it, trying to figure out what is the most relevant, what combination of these topics or entities can produce the greatest keyword coverage and that's why I've showed guys the topics and entities for tree service stuff, where tree maintenance has the broadest keyword coverage. It's not the keyword tree maintenance that gets the highest search volume, but that combination of tree and maintenance to create one topic out of two entities, which is tree maintenance, right? That one topic has the broadest keyword coverage of all the search query combinations that I've ever tested in the tree service industry. And I found that through testing. So that's why I said, guys, and I've been over this many times. I'm not going to go over it again today, but you just go through and collect all of the entities related to your industry and start playing with different combinations of them. Determine, and that takes testing, guys. I've been doing this for 3 years now with the tree service industry. Like I said, it's been about 6 months now that the current configuration that I have, I've not been able to beat it. So, but I still do testing in it, right? So I'm just telling you guys that not to discourage you. I want you guys to do this in whatever industry you've selected as your chosen industry. Pick one and start doing this testing, because once you figure it out, you have now a competitive edge over everybody else in that industry, most others in that industry. Let me just give you a quick demonstration of that. So this is just so you guys know, I share this often, but the Felling Pro domain, which is the more recent kind of, I had the domain now for maybe 3 years, something like that. But it wasn't until earlier this year, about 6 months ago, that I really started promoting this particular brand, which is multi-location brand for lead generation stuff. And so I've got a number of sites. If you just go to felling.pro, you'll see what I'm talking about, right? This is just the homepage is just a directory page, essentially, that just points to subdomain sites that I built, the ones that are at least completed. I've got some other sites out there that aren't completed yet. So I'm just pointing this out because I want to show you guys like why I'm talking about this. Is like, look at these jumps. This site here has one backlink, one geographic backlink built to it, one. And look at these jumps. This is showing this entire year. So this is showing that this was just submitted to Zootrix. It was built the week prior to me submitting it to Zootrix for rank tracking. And go look at the backlink profile if you don't believe me. There's one link built to this. It's a geographic link with a link with geographic relevance. So this is pure on page, right? This is Maricopa County, Arizona. And just look at the green arrows. Look at, guys, one backlink has been built to this. One, okay? A geographic link, so it's not even topically relevant. But the reason why, and I'll show you another one in just a moment too, and I'll show you another one that has 0 backlinks built to it. That's a younger site. It was built probably about 2 weeks after this one was built. And you'll see a similar type of jump in rankings. Look at these green arrows, guys. This is what I'm talking about. When you get the proper structure in whatever industry you're working in, select one, do all the testing, so that once you figure out the best performing configuration, you can go into new markets like this, especially if you're targeting lower competition areas, and get these types of results with no backlink building. Or once it kind of fully settles in to wherever it's going to stop improving in performance on its own, then I can go intentionally build some backlinks to it so that I can push the keywords that aren't performing well yet. But look at these arrows, guys. Look at the amount of jumps that have occurred with no link building. It's because I've figured out the proper structure for hyper-local sites in the tree service industry. So that's why I just keep duplicating these sites, because it works. And so it's easier now for me to get results in the tree service industry because I went through a lot of testing to figure that out. And so those of you like, you want to get better results, do what others aren't willing to do. And that means pick an industry Start testing, figure it out. I can give you the framework, but it's going to require you to test to figure out what the proper configuration is. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of effort. But once you get it, now you're on to something that you can monetize and you can scale, because this is super easy. I have a team member now that does these sites for me. She only does one a week for me right now, which kind of pisses me off because I expected to see her way more efficient at this. She only does about one site per week for me right now. But one site per week now, all I do is send her another location that I've researched and say, okay, go here's the county and here's the 5 supporting locations. The structure of every one of these sites is 100% the same. It's the same 4 services. The only thing different is the locations. That's it. So I just send her another project and she builds another site, and a week, 2 weeks later or a week later, we submit it for indexing, and boom, let me show you another example. Here's another one that was just built about 2 weeks after that one right here. Look at this. Look at these jumps. Look at these green arrows, guys. This one has 0 backlinks built to it. 0 backlinks built to it. And I'm going to show you something else very briefly about. Look at these green arrows. The number of jumps that this is occurring. This site is 3 weeks old. No, it's 2 weeks old. Exactly 2 weeks old. You guys see this? Spotsylvania Felling Pro. I'm just going to show you the backlink profile. Let me pause the screen for a minute and get into Majestic. Okay, here we go. Look at this, guys. 0 backlinks built to this. See that? But notice something? It has proper link equity from the appropriate categories for this type of a business flowing into the subdomain. Why? Because we are building topically relevant links to the root domain here. So do you understand? That's why I'm saying, like, once you figure out the proper structure, now you've got something that you can easily scale, especially in the lead gen business, that you can use for all kinds of stuff to generate leads, which you can build a whole lead generation business around this, or the hybrid model, which is what I've been promoting now for several years, or at least a couple of years, which is where you use these type of assets to get results very quickly in a particular area, and then use this as a sales tool to then sell your services to companies that have Google business profiles, right? You can do a hybrid of lead generation plus traditional retainer-based services. So, but do you think it's worth it to go out and do the type of testing and analysis and research and trial and error, all the stuff that I've been describing, to then identify proper structures so that you can just duplicate sites into each new location that you've identified as a lower competition location, get it to rank very quickly with no backlinks or very few backlinks, so very little additional effort and resources, monetary investment, etc. Very little of that. It's other than just proper on-page structure. And then if you have them as subdomains of something like this, right, then you can build topical links to the root domain so that you can push link equity and the appropriate topical categories to the subdomain locations. And then you hit the individual subdomain locations with geographically relevant links to help push those in those specific areas. Look at this, 0 backlinks, yet it has trust flow 10 in relevant categories. And you can see, again, guys, look at how these sites are performing. They improve in performance on their own. Once it finally settles in to where it levels out and it stays basically, there's always going to be fluctuations up and down. But once it kind of levels out, then that's when you can determine, okay, now I can go start investing some resources, time, money, whatever, into building links to this specific location to help it improve in performance. One last thing I want to show you guys. I just updated, I know I've shared this with you guys before, but the Louisville Felling Pro project, and I had this was one of the very first sites that I had started testing on, that the structure that I've developed. Okay, this was one of the very first sites that I had tested on, like within the first 5 of them. No kidding. And so I built the original Louisville Felling Pro site on high level websites, but it was using the first version of the template that I had secured, which had a ton of HTML errors on it, like just terrible HTML errors. And I've, as far as using HTML, like heading tags for all kinds of stuff on the page that should not have been using heading tags, guys. That's what I've been talking about. You can convey to Google through titles, headings, and subheadings. If you have proper HTML markup of the page structure, then you can convey very specifically to Google what the page is about with no additional content. because it's reading the main optimization elements of the titles, headings, and subheadings and determining what the page is from that. And so I've showed you guys in Hump Day Hangouts many times that I had left all those technical errors because the project was still performing well. Well, we're getting ready to launch a new service for Tree Care HQ. And I needed a test and high level to start developing the snapshot and the automations and everything. So I decided to add that to the Louisville Felling Pro sub account and high level. And so that's where I'm developing the next service that we're going to launch under Tree Care HQ is through this sub account. And so because of that, just this past weekend, I said, all right, I'm finally going to update this damn site. So I did. I just redeployed this site 2 days ago, or I guess today's what? Yeah, 2 days ago would have been Monday. And so you can see now those HTML errors are gone. Well, you've got two H1s. No, that's because the high level's got two sites, desktop and mobile version. It's not a responsive design. It's two separate sites, desktop and mobile. So this has now been modified and optimized. This is a new site. I got rid of, well, I've still got from the template that I extracted this from, I've still got the Google reviews widget from a different location in there. So it's not 100% complete, but it's damn near complete. And so you'll see, like, for example, the neighborhoods previously, I still had the neighborhood images and all that other stuff. I got rid of all that stuff. This is now the most current template that I've been using, what I call the control, because I've not been able to beat this configuration yet. And so that's how this site is optimized. And I'm only bringing this to your attention, guys, because look at this. I just redeployed this site on Monday, and submitted it for indexing because the pages were done then. And you can see it just jumped. You can see how, let me just show you. If I go back to this year, you're going to see how volatile this site has been, right? So it's performing well since I added it to Zootrix for rank tracking, for organic rank tracking. And then it kind of dropped a bit and it kind of stabilized down there for a while. And then all I did was, like I said, I just re-optimized the site or redeployed the site with proper structure, which got rid of those technical markup errors, HTML markup errors. And look at that jump. Guys, nothing else. I mean, I am building links to this one too, by the way, just to be clear. But take a look at this. Like, I want you guys to see this. Every single keyword, all 24 except for the Louisville keywords, there's 6 keywords being tracked for Louisville specifically, are on the top 5. You can see that jump there, but look at that. I mean, there's only these keywords here that aren't yet on page 1, and look at those green arrows. So they're on their way, is what I'm saying. And like I said, I just deployed this or relaunched this site with proper structure now, just on Monday. So it's only been 2 days. So I expect over the course of the next couple of weeks, because that's, it usually takes Google 3 to 4 weeks for major structural changes to finally settle into where they're going to settle into the algorithm. And we are building links throughout this process. Just so you know, this project is getting regular and consistent link building done to it, because I've yet to rank. In maps, we're ranking for Louisville terms, but not in organic yet, not on page 1 yet. But look at those arrows, So just to show you guys, that's why I think it's worth going through this exercise that I've been preaching to you guys for all this time. It's because it gives you a competitive edge. It will help you to grow your business and therefore your revenue a hell of a lot quicker if you go through otherwise, what are your alternatives? You go into every single industry, you do an enormous amount of research just to try to figure out how to properly optimize for that particular industry, and you never get to the point where you know that you've got a winning combination because you're only in that industry long enough or to do just good enough not to lose the client, right? And then you go to another industry because now some other company or some other business owner in some other industry got your attention somehow, and now you're willing to now reinvent the wheel, start all over again in another industry where you might be just good enough, but you're never super effective. I would rather be super effective in one industry and then scale like crazy because it's duplicatable. This is the exact same structure that we use for every goddamn site. Go look at it. Every one of these sites is structured exactly the same way. It makes it so much easier to scale. And as I was showing you with the links, guys, what happens is you inherit, your subdomain sites inherit authority and relevance from the parent domain so that you can get huge jumps in ranking just from deploying the site because it's relevant. Does that make sense? So again, coming back here, this one, I love looking at this one because this one is the Maricopa Felling Pro, if I can find it again. There it is. I love seeing those jumps like that with no one. I'll just show it to you. There was one geographic link built to that. And the rest of that has, which the geographic link that was built to that has trust flow in arts and entertainment topical category. But look at the topical categories of this. It's 98% flowing into here because it's inheriting that from the felling.pro domain. So it's the relevance is still proper. One geographic link placed, and you can see these types of jumps, right? And so that's why I think it's worth the juice is worth the squeeze, in my opinion, guys, for doing that type of work. All right. Roy's question is coming up because we're coming up on the 5 o'clock mark, and I do want to answer Roy's question. Not going to get to any of those YouTube questions. I'm going to answer Greg's question. Huzaifa, I've answered so many of your questions for the last several weeks. I do appreciate the questions, but I do have to get to other people's questions. So sometimes I'm going to skip over yours just because I have to. It's not fair to other members to not answer their questions, just to be clear. Greg, this is Greg Pippin. He was one of our mastermind members for a long time. He recently jumped out so that he could invest more into this particular project. So great question, Greg. He says, Bradley, I've been offered a niche edit from QGP that is 100% relevant at the page level, but the website is spread out in its topics. My health website's main topic is the page URL, is in the page URL, excuse me, and the outbound links are great ones to be next to. So that means in close proximity to the outbound links that are also relevant. However, I have 3 concerns. First, the website topics range from health and beauty, home decor, fashion, and even a few injury attorney posts. Second concern is the referring domains have jumped from 250 up to 425 in the past 30 days, and inbound links jumped 2K to over 10K in the last month. Third, there are 12 Google ads on the post of the page. This page is extremely relevant, but the site throws up some caution flags to me. Would you link from that page instead, or instead push to get one from a website solely focused on health? Thanks. Well, remember, Greg, what I mentioned in the mastermind when I was talking about this is I use traditional link services like QGP, which stands for Quality Guest Posts, for outreach type links for the traffic statistics. Yes, you still want to try to also get relevance too, but page level relevance only is acceptable to me when I'm buying a link for the traffic metrics. You understand? That is why I still buy. I don't provide those types of links, guys, to be clear. The links that I provide are based purely on relevance, topical or geographic relevance. I don't give a damn about the DR or the DA and or really the traffic metrics. Traffic is a validator, though. If you can get links from a source that is both relevant and has traffic, those links are going to be more valuable. Some of my sites get traffic some of my link building sites get traffic, some of them don't. But what we're pushing is relevance. So why I use QGP or outreach links, which is I go to QGP for those, is so that I can buy links that have traffic, significant traffic. And so I'm looking for, at the bare minimum, page level relevance for sure. But it's okay if that's all the relevance that I get. Like, in other words, if that post is published onto a multi-topic blog where the domain level relevance isn't appropriate, or it doesn't match up with or align with the page level relevance or the topical categories that I need it for, as long as the page is still relevant. So the link is inserted into a referring page that is topically relevant to what it is linking to, then that's okay, because what I'm purchasing there are traffic. I'm not actually buying traffic. I'm buying a link that is placed onto a site that receives traffic so that it makes that link more valuable. Does that make sense? I'm pushing relevance through semantic links. I'm pushing traffic through outreach links when needed, if that makes sense. And it's not actually pushing traffic. It's just pushing the traffic kind of signal, if that makes sense. So hopefully that's clear. I hope I answered your question, Greg. What I'm saying is I'd still probably go for it. I don't know about that particular site, but as long as it's relevant at the page level, it's got good traffic metrics, all that kind of stuff, then why not, right? Good question. All right, so the last one, guys, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. I'm going to answer Roy's land flipping question, and then I'm going to wrap it up. I will look to see if there's no comments. Only one comment today. Wow. Hey, James. Wow, quiet. Are we on? Are we live? What the fuck? Used to seeing a lot more comments than that, so that's interesting. All right, so I'm going to answer this one, guys, and then it's done for the day. And since there's no comments, I don't even know if anybody's here, so whatever. Roy says, hey, Bradley, how are you? We have some updates for you on the land in New Jersey that we've been trying to flip. So we took your advice, and we are currently trying to get our sale agreement recorded with the corresponding county office. You don't record a sale agreement It's an affidavit and memorandum concerning real estate. It's a declaration that a sale agreement exists. That's what the hopefully that's clear. You do not record the sale agreement. You record an affidavit, which is a declaration that a sale agreement exists. You understand? It's a recorded statement that says that you have equitable interest in the property because you have a signed purchase and sale agreement with you as the purchaser. So you do not record your sale agreement, just to be clear. So I want to make sure that that's clarified. In the meantime, we're looking into putting the land up on Facebook Marketplace and Brokerless. One thing we realized about Brokerless, though, is that it seems that their flat fee MLS and Realtor.com plans have already included Zillow. Does this mean that if we use Brokerless's MLS plans, our land will already be listed on Zillow without us having to try to list the land on Zillow by ourselves? Yeah, apparently so. That was not a feature of Brokerless when I used them. Remember, the last time I flipped land was in 2021. So it's been over 3.5 years now. It was in February 2021 was the last property that I flipped. So at that time, Brokerless was not integrated into Zillow. So I had to do Zillow myself in addition to Brokerless. But if that is now included in Zillow, which makes sense, then yeah, by all means, you can save yourself the hassle of trying to also list it on Zillow by yourself. Just do it through Brokerless, and then you're still going to get the same exposure anyway. Okay. Also, since we're short on time here because our sale agreement expires in early November, if we don't end up having enough time to close the deal, what do you think about the idea of reaching out to the seller and talk about a contract deadline extension? Yeah, you can. You certainly can. I've done that in the past. And sometimes you'll catch resistance. Sometimes they'll be agreeable. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask. All they can do is say no. It's not going to physically hurt if they say no. You know what I mean? That's why it's like sales, guys. I know people are, I used to be this way too, but I used to hate sales because, we don't like rejection, but it's not going to physically hurt you to get rejected. If somebody says no, so be it. Who cares? It's not the end of the world. It's not that they're rejecting you. They just don't want the offer. Maybe it's not a good time, whatever. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask. Just ask. Maybe they might try to renegotiate the terms a little bit, lower price or higher price or something like that or whatever. Sometimes if you know that if you really feel good about the deal, maybe you can get them to agree to a contract or closing date extension by offering them another binder deposit, so more earnest money. Like I don't typically recommend that unless you feel really confident about the deal, but maybe they give you some resistance if you ask for another 60 days or something like that, and they give you resistance. Then you could say, look, we'll give you another $300 in earnest money or something. I don't know. You could remember what's beautiful about real estate, guys, is it's anything goes. Like as long as two parties agree and it's written and signed upon, ratified as a written agreement between two parties, it goes. Like as long as it's not illegal or whatever. Then any agreement that you make in real estate is contractually binding as long as both parties sign the agreement. And so you can finagle that if you catch any resistance, get creative, figure out a way to overcome that obstacle, if that makes sense. Again, if it's if it's a seller that has had a property for many, many years and it's just taking you longer to close, unless they're planning on trying to market to themselves, a lot of the times they'll be agreeable to a, short contract extension. I'd try 60 days or something like that. But yeah, man, get that into Brokerless, and then Facebook Marketplace, you're going to get a lot of tire kickers. But I flipped a lot of properties from Facebook alone. So I'm sure you can sell it. Remember, guys, or Roy, the way that I did things was I would make offers on properties at about 20 to 30 cents on retail value of the property. And then I would once I would get the contract signed, the purchase agreement signed, then I would market that for sale as a contract assignment I would put the property on the market for 60% of market value. So I would always have anywhere between a 30 to 40% spread between what my contract purchase price was and what the sale price or the contract assignment fee was, if that makes sense. So you've got wiggle room there, is what I'm saying. Is if you're having trouble getting buyers interested in the property, lower your price. As long as you're still making a profit on it, then you ought to be able to flip that property. If you buy it right, or you get the agreement, purchase and sale agreement signed from the seller properly, it gives you plenty of options for selling the property, which could be lowering the price if needed, right? Because you should have enough margin built into it to be able to do that. I'm not saying lowering the price, try to sell it first, obviously. But when you get close to the contract expiration time, if you don't have a buyer, you can drop the price significantly and still make money on the deal, right? So anyways, all right, guys, I think that's it. I don't see anybody else. No additional comments. Oh, leverage lifestyle is there. What's up? How much do you think G utilizes social media profiles, especially those that might require phone verification as trust signals for rank and rent for establishing a brand in Google's eyes? Social media is definitely a validator, man. There's no question. You know, you could definitely have a, sorry, I didn't realize that that video was still playing. Let me close that window down. So yeah, so social media is definitely something as a validator. Anything that you can do to kind of further validate a potential project is going to help. So I always recommend that if you can. But like for Felling Pro, for example, we have one Felling Pro Facebook page, and I reference that. Just let me grab the screen again. I'll show you what I mean. I guess I'm still in the screen. If we go back to Felling Pro right here, you'll take a look like this one, for example. This has all of them linked to this Facebook page here, which is just Felling Pro Tree Services. Would it make more sense to have an actual Facebook page for each location? Yeah, but I'm certainly not going through and building Facebook pages for every one of these damn locations. I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? I don't have the desire to do that or the time to do it. So I built one for the general brand that then we reference in all of these location pages, right? But yeah, certainly if you wanted to have a LinkedIn page, company page, a Facebook page, you know, all those kind of things that are associated with each individual location, that should only help. But what I do for my own projects now is I don't do that. We don't start building branded and supporting assets for a particular location site until we've monetized it. And then once we've monetized it, then we will go out and start building supporting assets for it. But initially, no, I'm not going to waste the time and effort on that. I want to see, can we rank it first without those things? And if we can, now when we go in to build those assets, we're just going to take more results within the search results page. Does that make sense? So let me give you a quick example of this, guys, just so you guys can see this. So here's an example: Tree Service, Newburgh, Kentucky, right? Look, my Felling Pro is outranking even maps for that, which is interesting because you'll see that's the old SEO title. I told you guys I just redeployed this site on Monday. I started over the weekend, but I sent it for indexing on, well, not, I only sent the homepage and the Louisville page for indexing. I did not submit the others to Search Console for crawling. But you can see, look, the SEO title is different now, right? It's Newburgh Tree Service instead of as it's showing here. That's because that's the old SEO title from as the site was last weekend. But why do I bring that up? Because here are supporting and branded assets, right? So this is a different domain where I was testing different configurations. This one's on WordPress. This is a different brand, obviously, but it's the same configuration. Oops, the same site structure, everything. It's just a different brand because I was doing testing with that. But then you'll see the Google site, right? Google site, branded asset. You'll see this is the homepage for that site. You'll see here's a YouTube video for that. So those are supporting assets for this Louisville Felling Pro brand. And what happens is once you know that you can rank a site, then you go out and start building branded and supporting assets for that project, and you start taking up multiple spots. What do I got? I mean, you can consider that a different brand, it is, but I could also consider that a supporting asset because the same contact form on this site is the same contact form that's in this site. So any leads generated from either one of those sites go to the same tree service buyer, lead gen buyer of mine that's in Louisville. Does that make sense? So I bring that up because what I'm saying is I like to go target things with organic assets only to identify those that are performing well. And then once we have them in a state where it can be monetized, then we build branded and supporting assets so that we can take up multiple spots on page one for that particular project. Because then this becomes an even easier sell when you can go point to something and say, look, I've got multiple assets ranked on the page one for that search query in that location. Do you want this? Do you want us to do this for you? Let's work together. See what I'm saying? So, Hopefully that's clear. All right, guys, I got to wrap it up. Appreciate you guys.